Welcome to the Great African Leadership Series, where we feature great inspirational speeches and quotes from African leaders.
That really is the burning question on our continent and in our respective countries. How are we going to transition from a state of poverty to a situation of prosperity? And the transformation is essentially about arriving at the goal of prosperity for our nation. We look at our continent. We have so many things that should make it possible for that transformation to have already been effected, but unfortunately it hasn't been. They say 50% of the world's arable lands are on the continent. Over 30% of the remaining minerals of the world are on the continent. We have the youngest and most vibrant population of all the continents of the world. We put all those things together. Our situation should be so much further down the road than it is. But we are taking the reality. And the reality requires what? I think it requires making sure that the three key components in the whole paradigm of development work in sync and in tandem. We're talking about the role of government. What the state can do to facilitate the process of transformation. We're looking at the role, of course, of the private sector, the business community, what it can do, and then the larger civil society, what support it can give to the principal actors. There are fundamental things that are required of government to be able to assist in the process. Good governance, obviously, is the foundation. But we're looking at the management of the macroeconomy. We're looking at tax policy. We're looking at educational policy. How are you forming your skills? How are you developing the workforce that you need for the process of transformation? These are some of the key and most important priorities for government if it is going to make an important contribution. The point that's being made by President Kagame about all of us beginning a very important mental, ideological, cultural reform is absolutely critical. But I think that at the heart of it is the question that has to be posed, not even, I think, necessarily to governments, but to the business communities in our various countries. Because the economies that are developed in the world today, across the globe, whether they're in Asia or Europe, in the Americas, the centrality in terms of leadership that was given to the process of social and economic transformation by the business communities is absolutely self-evident. So that's therefore the big question. The business communities, the private sector in Africa, is it up to the task? Assuming, and that's is not an assumption that can be taken for granted, but let us assume that we have governments in place that are doing the right things, stabilizing the economy, providing a strong macroeconomy, doing the right things in terms of monetary and fiscal policy, providing good governance, emphasizing what we need to do to have the kind of skills in the labor force that are required for the process of development and transformation. All of these are, if you like, preconditions. They are setting the stage for the principal actors to be able to act and develop, and that is the business communities. And that, for me, is the issue. There's one Aliko Dangote has emerged in Nigeria. It's important that we have several. Aliko, I know that your primacy is important, but I think that for the continent, we need many of you. Are there going to be many such people who are going to come forward, make their money, invest in their countries and in their economies, and not try to stash away monies elsewhere, but look seriously at the process of contributing to the transformation of our countries? I know there's one major constraint that we have to look at, and there government has a role to play. Access to capital and the cost of capital. In our own country, Ghana, the banks have for the last 20 or 30 years been very content at making lots of money by doing very passive things and not being particularly involved in the risk-taking that contributes to economic development and significant transformation. We're not seeing that. That the conditions that are taking place in other parts of the world, I think, reinforce the necessity for us to make sure that the Continental Free Trade Area works. If it is the case that intra-African trade represents something like 15% of the collective GDP of our countries, and we contrast that to 70% in the case of the European Union, that is the gap that we have to fill. And making sure, first of all, that the trade area succeeds. We have, first of all, to make sure that it comes into being. We're required to have 22 countries to sign up to the agreement, to ratify it. So far, my understanding, Mr. Chairman of AU, is that there are 4 countries that have so far agreed. Kenya, your own, ourselves, and there's a 4th, I was told, are the countries. So the sooner the 22 can ratify the agreement, the better for all of us. Because the conditions of the world whereby, I think the words you used, that we're being shut out. If we're being shut out, what do? We shut in and look at ourselves and see, yes, and there's obviously a tremendous opportunity for our businessmen and enterprises in pushing the whole train of intra-African trade. It is a very, very powerful tool for developing our economies and bringing that prosperity, increase in household incomes, and the rest that all of us are looking for.
And share this video with friends and family to support the channel.